Hello everybody, welcome to another Hands-On with me, Christian Schiller. Last episode I was experimenting with green screens and all sorts of new settings, and then I went on a holiday. And this week I had to reschedule because of various reasons. So on my home setup, on my B setup, so all those things I was experimenting with are now moot for this episode, and back to just winging it for an episode. So hopefully everything is coming through okay. What do I want to talk about today? I want to talk about DuckDuckGo. DuckDuckGo has been a search engine for quite some time. I've actually been using it myself for quite a while. I'm mostly happy with it. And then there were iOS and Android apps for some time. And then they recently announced a Mac version of the browser, which is what I want to talk specifically about today. I wanted to show screenshots of the iPad version. I can't show the Android version because I'm actually using my phone right now as a camera. And I'd like to show you the iPad version, but I've run out of USB-C ports to plug my iPad in. But I mean, we could do this the old school way. DuckDuckGo is not very visible doing it the old school way though. It has a certain look. I really like this. Actually, I'll show you. So if I go to a website, here's a website, and then there's this fireproof button up here where you can just clear everything, and you get this awesome effect, and everything's cleared. And there's a bunch of settings in here where you can change the default browser and all sorts of things. Now, I find this interesting actually because this is going to look quite familiar, which we'll come to in a minute. And it looks a little different on Android. I'm not sure how they develop it on Android and iOS, and whether the way they've developed the Mac version relates to that. We will see. But if you're interested, it's currently in private beta. I was lucky enough to get given a sneaky preview, which you can find at, the URL at the bottom of the screen, duckduckgo.com/Mac. And then eventually they will give you a shortcut code and off you go. So let's jump in. I won't really zoom in here because it doesn't matter too much. This is me using Safari, in case you were unsure, that's Safari. I use Safari quite a lot because it's performant. It's very well integrated with macOS, etc., etc. It has some extensions. It's reasonably privacy focused, which reminds me, I have a bunch of extra privacy protections on, which I'm going to disable because I want to get the default experience in DuckDuckGo in a minute. I can have extensions as well. I have a bunch of extensions here, and this will come up definitely in a minute. So 1Password, my notebook, Buffer, Choosy, which lets me just open things in different browsers, Raindrop, which is like a browser-independent bookmark manager, Downy for downloading videos and some work things, and then the Share extension here, which is something I really like, actually. I'm also going to take this opportunity to open up the Web Inspector because this is important. We're going to see this again soon, so it's good to just get an idea of what this looks like. Now, if I want to have a different browser, I tend to use Brave, which is Chromium based, which is fairly standard way of creating a new browser these days. You use the open source Chromium, add your own stuff on top, and you have a browser. It's obviously a little bit more complicated than that, but that's the principle. I also do have Chromium, the actual open source base of all of these here. And I also have Edge, which is from Microsoft, which is also Chromium based and adds its own thing. That's just, so you can see they're both Chromium based. I'll close that. But they look slightly different from each other. So we have Edge on the left and Brave on the right. They look slightly different. Actually, they look fairly different, I think, now I look at it. We can kind of prove, I guess this is Bing. I don't know what this webpage is, actually. Let's open up my own website again. Why not? To promote myself. Incidentally, if you like what you see, you can find more at christianchiller.com. I forgot to do that plug. This is me doing it now. So we can see they both pretty much look the same. If we open up the web inspector, we'll get something similar. Edge actually offers a lot of extra things on its web inspector, which is something I covered in an interview with the project manager of the dev tools for Edge. It looks somewhat similar, but then you'll start to see some different things here. Like, oops, that just sort of vanished, but there's a couple of extra things here, and you can see some other things here which you don't get in Brave, for example, etc., etc. But they're fundamentally fairly similar to each other, and they have varying things for protection and stuff like that. So Brave has these shields. I don't know what that is. I don't think I have anything on my website, but maybe I do. And Edge has some features as well. You know, basically anybody these days who isn't interested in tracking you offers a way to protect you from being tracked. And all of these browsers, including Safari, do this too. You can also see this menu here is a little different. But why is DuckDuckGo different then? It's different for a couple of different reasons. That was a terrible grammar. One of the things that the browser likes to try and do is Autofix, shall we say, cookies for you. Because we know that I live in the European Union, and despite best efforts to do cookies properly, a lot of website developers just kind of fudge it a little bit and don't necessarily have systems to do it very well for you. They make the experience so abhorrent that you just give up. And some browsers, including DuckDuckGo, are trying to automate this for you. So we can see here, let DuckDuckGo, God, it's very hard to keep saying DuckDuckGo every time. Like DuckDuckGo tried to manage cookies consent pop-ups. On some sites, we can automatically set preferences to minimize cookies and maximize privacy, then close the pop-up. So have not now, don't ask again. I'm going to try this manage them for me, actually. Although interestingly, I didn't really see what it's been set as. Let's see, cookies minimized. I wonder if there's a way to change those settings a little bit. Not so sure. So let's take a step through this, I think. I'm going to open up a new window. And let's just make a little bit of... Oh, it should be okay. So we haven't made our default browser yet. We can add favorites up here. We can see tracking attempts blocked. I don't know if there's any more information on... Let's see what that means exactly. I see this in... a lot of the other tools I use. So you can see I have AdGuard up here, which has done some similar things at a system level, actually, interestingly. Reduces invasive tracking, okay. It's always been a little unclear what that means exactly, but usually like third-party tracking across websites. We'll have to test this somehow, I suppose. These are the pages we have open. So we can add it to favorites. We can also clear it from that particular website, which meant we've now lost it, but we'll get that back. We can also see Gizmodo here, naughty website, 47 tracking attempts blocked. We might be able to see in more detail. I always kind of, when browsers talk about reduce the tracking, I'd like to kind of know what it was. So that's kind of some of the main things it does. Let's jump into some preferences then. Appearance settings, I think that's fairly self-evident. Dark, system, light, which is system at the moment. Privacy. So fireproofing is this feature that I mentioned already. And you can fireproof a website to say, don't clear everything if you don't want to keep losing logins, for example. Let DuckDuckGo manage the cookies. We saw that already, but I'm not seeing... The interesting thing here is I'm not seeing much nuance to this. I can't change very much. And then global privacy control... Okay, well, this is interesting. I don't really know how I can trust that. Not necessarily from DuckDuckGo, but the people who claim to follow it. So it seems to be mostly a California law, so I don't know how useful that is to me, but anyway. And here is where we actually get to some interesting things, and I've highlighted this in my podcast a couple of times. DuckDuckGo does not use Chromium or anything else in brackets. There isn't much else, to be honest with you, but there are. Instead, we use the rendering engine that comes with macOS, which is created by Apple and the same rendering engine Safari uses. So this actually gives us, in theory, the performance of Safari without it being Safari. I'm interested to open up Activity Monitor here and see. So we can see, yep, the browser here. And this is how Safari tends to render processes as well. Each web page is treated as a separate process. So you'll actually see, for example, assuming that is the GPC page, we can actually force quit individual pages, and it crashed. You saw that very briefly flash there. And this is similar with Safari. If I open up Safari, you see a similar thing. It has all the different URLs as well as other things there. So it treats each page as a process and quite minimal on CPU. If we compare that to Brave, or any Chromium browser, you just get this kind of very generic browser helper. We see 2.2% CPU, and I'm pretty sure we had no pages open, so that's already idle is quite high. Let's see, DuckDuckGo with pages open is at 0.2%. Safari with quite a lot of web pages open is at 1.6. Obviously, we're ignoring all the sub-page processes, but that's similar here. I could do some maths to see if it actually equaled out or not, but just very, very sort of quick to look at. That's one thing to note as well. Now, here's where we get to some of the bad news. You might already be seeing this. So there's autofill for various things, passwords, addresses, etc. No way to sync this, which is interesting. And probably the biggest negative I'm seeing right now is no support for extensions, which is a problem for me, I think, especially not having one password. And that's basically it. So it's very minimal. I would love to be able to control some of this a bit more, maybe to be able to say on certain websites do one thing, on certain websites do another. And that lack of extensions is a big problem. Of course, it's probably what makes it so efficient. And that's basically all the settings we have. Let's open up a web page again. Open up my web page again. And we can also see there's very little in terms of options here. So we can already see that Safari starts to add a lot more here. If I click inspect, and we get a whole bunch of other options I've got enabled here. But we should be able to see the identical web inspector here, because it is essentially using exactly the same feature set. Yes, it's identical as far as I can see. There may be more that isn't, but as far as I can see, it's identical. We may have some different errors because of different blocks, but probably not on this website because it's not very complicated. Oh no, there we go. They are the same. Yeah. Let's see up here again. No trackers. Yes, I don't have any trackers. And we could disable them, and the page will reload. Yeah. Let's put it back on. Let's go to a more tracker-heavy website. And that's interesting. The cookies thing is not being managed there. I wonder why. Let's accept all of them. And we can see it's doing lots of things down there. 5 trackers. I was expecting more, to be honest with you. It's telling you who's been blocked. I don't know if we click it out. Now we can actually see some more specifics about what's being blocked. Verizon Media, Google, Oracle. So these are allowed because they're owned by it. I don't know how you determine that. These ones were blocked. Connection is secure. 5 trackers blocked. That's the same. Weird that the cookies didn't come through though. I don't know if there's any options to automatically or open or manually say, help me with cookies. Nope, nothing there. Interesting. So a little bit inconsistent there maybe. Let's clear it. Bye-bye. Let's go to something else. Again, the cookies thing did not come up. I didn't turn it off, did I? Don't think so. Nope. Customize. Ugh, yeah. Well, we're just going to clear it all in a minute anyway. I should just agree to off, off, off. Now, this is interesting. We need a bit more information here. Google, owner of Google.com, tracks you across 79% of top sites. We can't block them on sites they own, but we can on other pages. And we get a bit more information there. So let's... sure, why not? Now, I wonder if we go to a different website, if something will happen. So cookie consent pop-up was managed that time. Actually, lots of things going on there. Woof. Yeah. Who we blocked. Yeah, blocked all sorts of things here. There's quite a lot going on there. I don't even know what some of these are. A lot of Salesforce. Connection is secure, cookies minimized, but again, nothing really to change the settings here. So it's hard to know exactly what happened. We also notice, oh no, it is blocking some ads. Yeah, there we go. But yeah, that's pretty much it, I think, in terms of a feature set. What is interesting, I may regret doing this. Let's do this in Safari. So we don't get the cookie management, of course. So this is only blocking 6 trackers, interestingly. Whereas over here we are blocking 37, which is quite significant. It's not blocking ads, of course. That's a big difference. And yeah, it's missing quite a few. Let's have a look in Brave, maybe. Again, no cookie management. I have shields up here. Again, only 9. So we could probably make this much stronger if we wanted to. Still, but it's still not quite the same number, which is interesting. Yeah, only getting 10 items in Brave, but still other things that are working. And also, we're not getting ads now. Maybe if I reject all of these, we'll get something different. No, same again. So you start to see that there's some overlap there. This is where we start to wonder, like, what's this useful for, I suppose. It's a nice idea. I really like the fact that it's built on WebKit and on different OSs. It'll probably be different APIs. But I think that lack of extensions is problematic. It's going to make it very hard to use certain things. For example, even I just want to log into email, I have to. I think, yeah. So I get one password come up like that, but it's not quite the same. There's some negatives there that you don't get the ability to use some fairly common extensions that people use quite a lot. That's a slight negative. But for a quick alternative browser, it's pretty useful, I think. And maybe that feature set will come later. I could imagine, there we go, we could probably request a feature. Why not? I'm sure I am not the only person to have asked for that. But that's it. So it's pretty basically. There is no private windows, which I find interesting. I guess their argument is you don't need them. But that's an interesting decision to make because a lot of people have got used to it. But a lot of people also now know that it doesn't really always do very much. It does have the share extensions here, which I like, which is good, which is something I use quite a lot. So this enables me, for example, just to send things to Pocket, email, and et cetera, Everything apart from that is pretty basic. Yeah, I would love to be able to manage these cookie settings a bit more, I think, as well. Yeah, we can do the different websites or just select them. And I think that's pretty much a summary. So if you're interested in something fast and very private and managing your cookies most of the time, then it's certainly a good option for you. And that's pretty much it. So go and take a look. There is a password manager built in, but if you can't sync, then it's not massively useful, but it's It's worth keeping an eye on, I think. And I have been using the mobile version more and more, actually, on my phone, I must admit, instead of Brave. So there is that too. Right, well, that was DuckDuckGo for Mac. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Not needed to be a very long video because there's not much to cover, which I think is precisely the point. Whether I will keep using it, I'm not so sure right now. Safari is mostly okay for me, and then usually I have to use a Chromium browser for other things, and it's not a Chromium browser, so I'm not 100% sure yet. I will keep it and see how it develops. But if you're interested in something that's like Safari but isn't Safari, go and take a look, I guess. If you enjoyed what you saw today, you can find more at christianschiller.com, and wherever you're watching this, you can also subscribe and leave a comment or say hi. Next week, I will be looking at Archbee, a new documentation creation platform. It's another one to take a look at, which I look forward to. So until then, I'll see you next time, and thank you very much for joining me, everybody.